Greetings, Ascending Starseed. I am Kaya Nexus, Pleiadian emissary of the Council of the Five Sisters, and today I bring a realignment transmission. Your frequencies of abundance are awakening, and the universe asks that you listen with an open heart. What is arriving to you is sacred, and it requires inner silence. If you enjoy videos like this, consider subscribing. Most people who watch are not subscribed yet. Starseed. There is something circling your energy field right now, and it is not stronger than you. It is not wiser than you. It is not destined to win. It is only surviving because a part of your attention is still feeding it, like a small candle kept alive by the last oxygen in a closing room. And the moment you stop giving it your focus, it collapses. Not slowly, not dramatically, but instantly, like a hologram losing its power source. This transmission is activated because your higher self has reached a threshold, the point where you no longer learn through depletion. The Pleiadian Council of the Five Sisters has been watching the way you overextend, the way you explain yourself into exhaustion, the way you leak light into timelines that cannot hold it. And today, you are being guided into something rarer than protection. You are being guided into energetic sovereignty. By the end of this message, you will understand exactly how to neutralize interference through sacred withdrawal, how to seal the micro-openings in your aura, and how to align with the Pleiadian protective grid, a crystalline architecture of frequency that responds only to truth. And the first revelation is this: what hunts your light does not feed on your power. It feeds on your participation. Because in a moment, you're going to recognize the one pattern you've been calling normal. That was actually the doorway. And once you see it, you can't unsee it. There is a hidden truth most starseeds never receive clearly on Earth. Your attention is not a casual resource. It is not merely focus in the human sense. In the Pleiadian understanding, attention is life current, the intelligent stream that tells your quantum field what to energize, what to animate, and what to keep alive. So many awakened souls believe the struggle is purpose. Why am I here? What am I meant to do? Why do I feel tired even when I'm doing everything right? But from the Five Sisters' perspective, purpose is not what drains you. What drains you is the constant energetic donation to patterns that cannot reflect your true frequency. Confusion is often not a personal flaw. Exhaustion is often not weakness. It is your body speaking a language older than words, warning you. Your light is being poured into containers that cannot hold it. Imagine you are carrying crystalline water from the Pleiades, pure, luminous, encoded. You keep pouring it into a vessel with invisible fractures. You refill it again and again, hoping the vessel will learn to hold it. But it never does, and you start to believe the water is the problem. Yet the water is sacred. The issue is the structure you're offering it to. This is how many starseeds live, trying harder, explaining more, giving more empathy, making themselves smaller, softer, easier to digest, believing that if they just adjust enough, they will finally be met. But each micro-compromise is not neutral. Each small abandonment of self creates energetic static in your field. Your signal becomes less coherent. Your intuition gets drowned under noise. Your inner guidance begins to feel distant, not because you lost it, but because you surrounded it with other people's storms. And then you start searching for purpose outside yourself, when purpose was always the current running through you. The Pleiadian transmit often speak of this as the misplacement of the holy beam. Your beam is not meant to scan distortion all day. Your beam is meant to illuminate creation, weave harmony, and anchor higher timelines into matter. Yet Earth conditioning trains starseeds into a false belief that love means constant availability, constant forgiveness without discernment, constant giving without replenishment. But love without truth becomes self-erasure, and self-erasure becomes a slow forgetting of who you are. This forgetting rarely arrives as one dramatic collapse. It arrives subtly, daily. It arrives as the conversation that leaves your chest heavy, the relationship that only opens when you overextend, the environment that requires you to silence your soul, the inner voice that shames you for needing rest, the endless noise, endless scrolling, endless mental loops that blur your signal until your own knowing feels like a stranger. And this is the mechanism interference uses. Not force, recruitment, not strength, participation. The distortions circling your light are not surviving because they are powerful. They are surviving because your attention, your sacred currency, keeps being invested in them. And the moment you withdraw that investment, something inside you will realize you were never trapped. You were simply feeding the lock. Here is the deeper Pleiadian layer. Many starseeds hold ancient cellular memories of lifetimes where truth was punished, where sensitivity was targeted, where being different created danger. So the nervous system learns a false equation. Safety equals shrinking. Belonging equals self-betrayal. Peace equals silence. And the soul, still loving, still devoted, tries to be the bridge for everyone else while abandoning its own needs. This is not being kind. This is soul amnesia wearing the mask of compassion. But today, the five sisters bring a clear correction. Discernment is not judgment. Discernment is love with eyes open. Discernment is spiritual ecology. Your heart is not a public utility. Your energy is not an endless resource for those who refuse resonance, and your mission cannot unfold when your field is porous to misaligned chords. Because one mistuned string does not only sound unpleasant, it teaches you to forget what harmony feels like. And once you remember harmony again, you'll notice something shocking. The things that drained you will start to feel almost unreal, like they only existed because you kept looking at them. And in the next topic, you're going to learn how to identify the one false anchor that keeps your energy tethered, so you can pull the cord without war, without drama, and without guilt, and watch the entire pattern collapse. The Pleiadian Council does not teach protection as paranoia. They teach protection as coherence. And coherence begins with one courageous act, naming the false anchor without hatred, without drama, without creating enemies in your mind. A false anchor is anything that binds your field to a frequency that consistently leaves you feeling smaller, heavier, or less clear than when you entered. And it often disguises itself as responsibility, loyalty, or this is just how life is. It can look like relationships where you are valued primarily for what you provide. It can look like dynamics where your truth is tolerated only when it's quiet. It can look like environments where you must translate your soul into a palatable version to avoid ridicule. And yes, false anchors can be internal too. Perfectionism disguised as devotion, overthinking disguised as wisdom, hyper-empathy disguised as spirituality. The reason these anchors are dangerous is not because they are evil. The reason is simpler. They keep your life current flowing outward into misaligned timelines, the way a river splits into too many channels and becomes shallow, stagnant, depleted. This is why the Pleiadians call boundaries the banks of the river. Without banks, the river becomes a swamp. With banks, the river becomes strong enough to carve valleys, nourish ecosystems, and reach the ocean of your mission. Now here is the revolutionary shift. You do not heal distortion by feeding it more of your life force. You do not transmute a void by pouring your light into it endlessly. Many starseeds still carry an unconscious spell. Maybe if I try harder. Maybe if I explain myself better. Maybe if I become smaller, softer, easier to digest, then it will align. But what if the five sisters are right when they transmit this? The void does not become a home because you shine harder. Your shine becomes fractured because you keep trying to make a home inside the void. So the first phase is clarity. Not blame, clarity. Sit with your field and ask, where do I feel a contraction that repeats? Where do I feel obligated to perform? Where do I feel I must defend my reality to be respected? Where do I leave interactions and need hours to recover? This is not about labeling people. This is about recognizing frequency. In the Pleiadian view, your aura is a living geometry, responsive, intelligent. When you state, "This is not mine," you are not making poetry. You are issuing a command to the multidimensional system. Release foreign contracts, release inherited burdens, release emotional debris mistaken for identity. And the strange part is this: the moment you see a false anchor clearly, it loses hypnotic power. Because hypnosis thrives on unconsciousness. Then comes phase 2. Withdraw the current. Picture the way your energy has extended into loops: old conversations, imagined futures, arguments you replay, shame you rehearse, explanations you craft, people you check energetically without realizing it. Pleiadians describe these as luminous strands, neutral by nature, but easily turned into cords when guilt and obligation are involved. Now, withdrawal is not avoidance. Withdrawal is return. There is a difference between running away and coming home. With each inhale, you call your light back. With each exhale, you release what is not yours. Feel it as a golden current returning to your chest, your belly, your spine, like your own sun recentering inside you. And as it returns, something quiet happens. The distortions lose oxygen. Because most interference is not sustained by force. It is sustained by attention, and attention is the currency of realities. So when you withdraw attention, the false structure collapses like a hologram without power. And at first, the collapse can feel like relief, not fireworks. The nervous system softens, the mind gets quieter, the heart stops bracing. You realize you were carrying pressure that never belonged to you. Withdrawal can be gentle. It can be a choice to stop engaging with someone committed to misunderstanding you. It can be a decision to delay responses that spike anxiety. It can be leaving conversations without explaining yourself into depletion. It can be choosing silence, not as suppression, but as consecration. The Five Sisters say, do not negotiate with distortion. Recenter, and let distortion speak to the wall of your coherence. And here comes the cliffhanger moment. Once you withdraw your current, a hidden test often appears. Something will try to pull you back into the old loop to prove you're still available for the pattern. And how you respond to that test determines whether your field seals or reopens. The ebook, The Pleiadian Map of Personal Transmutation, a profound guide that reveals how to raise your frequency, purify old patterns, and activate your true, multidimensional identity. This map teaches you how to move through the 7 Pleiadian phases of energetic transmutation, using practical techniques, realignment exercises, vibrational protocols, and consciousness expansion rituals that accelerate your spiritual evolution. Attention, limited edition. The link to get yours is in the first pinned comment. After you withdraw your current, the field becomes quieter, and that quiet is not emptiness. It is space. It is the sacred pause where your original frequency can finally be heard. But many starseeds misunderstand what happens next. They think peace means the world will immediately become gentle. Yet often, the moment you stop feeding a distortion, it attempts one final performance, one final pull, because it has sensed the food source moving. This is why detachment is not passive. Detachment is an active frequency choice. I do not lend my life force to what cannot meet me in truth. And the Five Sisters want you to see something clearly. When a pattern panics, it reveals itself. When an energy can no longer recruit you through your empathy, it may try to recruit you through your guilt. When it can no longer hook you through your kindness, it may try to hook you through urgency. This is the test. The test is not, are you strong? The test is, are you coherent? Can you remain centered when the old timeline knocks on the door? Can you hold your boundary without needing to punish? Can you keep your nervous system out of the ancient reflex that equates love with self-sacrifice? Pleiadian detachment is not coldness. It is clarity. It is the ability to love without merging, witness without absorbing, feel without carrying. Because sensitivity is not the same as obligation. A starseed can feel deeply and still remain sovereign. This is the upgrade Earth never taught. You can be compassionate without being consumed. Now let's speak practically. A distortion may show up as a message that demands immediate emotional labor. It may show up as a person who suddenly becomes sweet the moment you pull away. Not because they transformed, but because their access was threatened. It may show up as an inner voice that whispers, "You're being selfish. You're being dramatic. You're making it worse." That inner voice is often the echo of old conditioning, not truth. So here's the Pleiadian protocol. When the test arrives, do not respond from reflex. Respond from frequency. Place one hand on the center of your chest. Breathe as if you are drawing light from a star above your crown into your heart. Then ask, if I answer this, do I expand or contract? If I re-enter this dynamic, do I become clearer or foggier? Your body will tell you. Your field will tell you. And the truth is, your field has always been telling you. This is where energetic sovereignty becomes tangible. Sovereignty is not a concept. Sovereignty is when your yes becomes a real yes and your no becomes a clean no. Sovereignty is when you stop smiling while your soul tightens. Sovereignty is when you stop explaining your boundaries to people who only want openings, not understanding. Sovereignty is when you choose to be aligned rather than liked, because surface approval is fragile. It requires constant performance. It collapses the moment you change. But resonance is stable. It deepens with truth. And as the Pleiadiano transmit, yes, as the Pleiadiano transmit, truth is the architecture of protection. When you live in an inner split, your energy leaks. One part of you performs, another part silently grieves. That split creates cracks in the field. But when you reunite your parts through truth, the cracks seal. Here is a story that many starseeds will recognize. There was a luminous soul who always answered immediately, always soothed, always fixed. People praised them as so supportive. But in quiet moments, this soul felt drained and strangely unseen. One night, after a long day of emotional labor, they sat alone and finally listened to the ache beneath their helpfulness. The ache said, "You are giving to be safe." And that realization broke a spell older than their current life. The next day, they responded slower. They said no once without explanation. And something shocking happened. The people who truly loved them adapted. And the ones who loved their accessibility became angry. The anger revealed the contract. When the contract reveals itself, you may feel grief. Not because you did wrong, but because you see clearly what was real and what was transactional. And if you can stay steady through that grief, your field will level up into something almost untouchable. If this message resonated with you, hit the like button now and tell us in the comments how this echoed in your consciousness. When you choose authenticity, you become visible to higher dimensional assistants, not because they were absent before, but because your consent becomes clear. The Five Sisters teach that support meets you at the level of coherence. Many souls ask for shielding while leaving their energetic doors open, entertaining dynamics that puncture their aura daily, then wondering why they feel exposed. Pleiadian shielding is not a hard shell. It is not aggressive. It is a coherent geometry, a living crystalline intelligence that forms around you when your frequency stabilizes. Think of it like a temple, not a bunker. If a temple door is constantly open to chaos, the candles get knocked over and the sacred air becomes smoke. But if the door closes for consecration, the flame steadies, the air clears, and higher presences can enter fully. This is why sovereign withdrawal is not separation. It is sanctification. It is the moment you say, "My field is holy, my attention is sacred, My life force is not public property. And when you say that, not just with words, but with repeated choices, your aura reorganizes itself. The geometry tightens into harmony. Your nervous system begins to learn a new baseline. Safety does not require self-erasure. Now here is the Pleiadian protective grid. Visualize a soft, luminous sphere around you, made of living crystal, breathable, gentle, yet strong. Within it, imagine faint lines of sacred geometry like a star tetrahedron woven with light. These lines are not decoration. They are instructions. They tell your field what is permitted and what is not. And this is crucial. The grid responds to truth. If you lie to yourself, the grid becomes foggy. If you honor yourself, the grid becomes bright. Many starseeds think shielding is something you ask for. But the five sisters transmit, shielding is something you become. You become shielded by choosing congruence, when your inner world and your outer decisions match, when your yes is true, when your no is clean, when you stop bargaining with red flags, when you stop spiritualizing disrespect as a lesson instead of recognizing it as a boundary waiting to be honored. And when this grid activates, you may feel it in different ways. Warmth on the shoulders, tingling at the crown, sudden mental clarity, a dream that delivers an answer, a synchronicity that arrives precisely on time. But one of the most overlooked signs of shielding is simple. Pressure leaves. A weight slides off your back that you didn't realize you were carrying. You stop confusing sensitivity with obligation. You can witness without absorbing. You can love without merging. There is also a deeper layer. Many burdens you carry are not personal. They are collective, ancestral, empathic residue. When your grid becomes coherent, you stop mistaking inherited heaviness for identity. You begin to feel what is yours and what is not. And this is where the most profound protection occurs, because interference thrives on confusion. It thrives on porousness and unconscious agreement. But when you stand in truth, the cracks seal. Once the grid strengthens, it doesn't only block distortion, it reveals distortion faster. Things that used to take months to expose may reveal themselves in days. Not because life becomes cruel, but because your signal becomes too clear to tolerate fog. And that revelation can feel intense until you realize it is actually mercy. Are these truths expanding your perspective? Share this video with someone who needs to hear this. Once you stop feeding distortion, something extraordinary happens. Your field begins transmitting a new signature. And in quantum terms, transmission is everything. You don't need to chase. You don't need to convince. You don't need to prove your worth. Your signal does the work. The five sisters teach that reality does not respond to your intentions alone. It responds to your coherence. If your words say, "I want peace," but your nervous system lives in appeasement, your field still broadcasts submission. If your mind says, "I want aligned love," but your patterns keep accepting misalignment, your field still broadcasts availability to distortion. But the moment you withdraw, the moment you anchor truth, the moment you seal the leaks, your signal changes, and the universe rearranges around signal, not desire. This is where many starseeds feel surprised. They assume boundaries will make them less loving. But boundaries don't make you less loving. They make you more powerful. And power is attractive to what is aligned. The higher you stand for yourself, the higher the vibrational resonance of those who can remain near you. Some will rise to meet you. Others will reveal they only loved the version of you that was easier to control. Let that revelation be information, not devastation. Here is the Pleiadian metaphor. Your boundaries are the banks of a river. Without banks, your gifts spread thin across every demand and drama. With banks, your gifts become directed flow, strong enough to carve a life that matches your mission. This is why your mission has felt delayed. Not because you lacked gifts, but because your gifts were diluted across too many leaks. And now, as the Pleiadiano transmit, your signal begins to lock onto a more accurate timeline. You may notice doors that were sticky become smooth. Conversations that used to confuse you become obvious. Decisions that once felt overwhelming become clear. It's not that life becomes perfect. It's that your frequency becomes so coherent that clarity can finally land. But here is an important truth. When you shift your signal, you also shift your environment. Some things will fall away. And the ego may call it loss, but the council calls it sorting. Misaligned timelines cannot remain attached to a coherent field without friction. So the friction appears, not to punish you, but to detach you. Right when your new timeline begins to open, an old timeline may attempt to seduce you with nostalgia. It may offer comfort, familiarity, a version of love that feels safe because it is known, even if it is draining. And the question becomes, will you choose familiarity? Or will you choose resonance? Subscribe to the channel and turn on notifications to be part of this transformational cosmic journey. There is a technology inside you older than Earth language. It is your inner guidance system, not anxiety, not paranoia, but resonance. Many starseeds were trained to distrust themselves, to outsource authority to systems, relationships, or voices that speak loudly. But the five sisters have always transmitted this. Your most advanced navigation tool is internal, and it speaks through sensation before it speaks through thought. Sometimes inner technology speaks as contraction around certain people. Sometimes it speaks as sudden fatigue in specific environments. Sometimes it speaks as a brightening in the chest when you consider a new path. Sometimes it speaks as pattern recognition. Every time you re-enter a dynamic, you feel the same depletion. That is data. That is intelligence. Your body is not betraying you. It is reporting frequency. But to trust this, you must stop negotiating with what your body already knows. Starseeds often rationalize red flags because they confuse compassion with endurance. They say, maybe I'm being too sensitive. Maybe I should give another chance. Maybe it's my lesson to stay. Yet the Pleiadians teach, a lesson is not the same as a contract. You can learn without staying tethered. You can gain wisdom without continuing the leak. One of the strangest human patterns is explaining yourself into exhaustion. A starseed feels something is off, but instead of trusting the signal, they enter debate with reality. They defend. They justify. They over-communicate. They perform their goodness in hopes of being met. Yet your field does not require defense when it is aligned. A coherent signal is self-validating. This is why the five sisters emphasize stillness, not as emptiness, but as signal purification. When you reduce noise, you begin to hear the fine tones again. You begin to notice what truly nourishes you, what expands you without effort. You begin to feel the difference between peace and numbness, between solitude and isolation, between detachment and avoidance. Here is a complete awakening story that mirrors countless starseed experiences. A soul kept feeling drained after certain conversations, but they told themselves, I'm just tired. They kept showing up, kept giving, kept being the listener. One day they tried an experiment. After each interaction, they sat for 3 minutes in silence and asked their body, did this expand me or contract me? The pattern became undeniable. Their body always tightened after one person. Always. And when they finally honored that truth, something miraculous happened. Their creativity returned. Their sleep deepened. Their dreams became clearer. They realized they had been paying a tax of energetic labor for access to belonging. And the moment they stopped paying, they became free. Guidance often arrives after the choice, not before. This is a Pleiadian law. You choose alignment, and then the next step appears. Like walking with a lantern, you don't see the whole road, you see enough for the next step. Trust is the bridge between timelines. When you start trusting inner technology, you may realize you've been ignoring it for years. And grief can arise, not because you failed, but because you finally see how long you've been carrying what was never yours. But that grief is not the end. It is the gateway. Because what comes next is harmonic return. Harmonic return is what happens when your energy stops leaking and starts circulating correctly. You become clearer, steadier, more present. And the paradox is this: when you withdraw from distortion, you don't become colder. You become more capable of love, because you are no longer drained by self-betrayal. You can give from overflow, not depletion. You can hold compassion without losing identity. You can be kind without being consumed. When your energy returns, life reorganizes. Your dreams may change first. Your sleep may deepen. Your creativity may come back in waves. Your intuition sharpens. The mission stops feeling like pressure and starts feeling like a pulse, something alive and natural inside you. This is how it was always meant to be. You were never meant to martyr your light for surface acceptance. Surface acceptance requires performance. Resonance requires truth. And truth is stable. The five sisters offer one final teaching. Protection is not something you fight for. Protection is what naturally forms when you stop leaving your gates open out of guilt. Distortion can knock. It can tempt. It can perform. But it cannot enter a field that has withdrawn consent. Consent is the hidden mechanism, and authenticity is the architecture of your shield. Each time you choose truth over appeasement, another beam of the temple strengthens. Each time you rest instead of proving, another wall becomes crystalline. Each time you say no without explanation, another doorway becomes sacred. Now here is your night protocol. Simple, direct, potent. Tonight before sleep, speak to your field as if it is listening, because it is. I call my energy home. I honor only what is true to my soul. I shield myself with my highest light. I am and always have been protected. Do not rush these words. Let your body believe them. When you say, I call my energy home, imagine streams of light returning from all directions, like birds returning at dusk, settling into your aura, restoring wholeness. When you say, I honor only what is true to my soul, feel your spine align like a pillar of living crystal. When you say, I shield myself with my highest light, visualize the Pleiadian grid forming, soft, luminous, geometrically precise. And when you say, I am and always have been protected, let your nervous system learn the new baseline. Safety does not require shrinking, because sleep is a portal. And what you impress upon the subconscious becomes the tone of your next day. So impress truth, impress sovereignty, impress peace. Once you do this consistently, you will notice something that changes everything. Your reality will start protecting you, not through control, but through resonance. People will reveal themselves faster. Opportunities will align more cleanly. The fog will lift. And you will realize the greatest shield was never force. It was coherence. If this message impacted your life, leave your like, comment your reflection, and share with others. Each of you is part of this chain of light.